IKONINI. So kama kuna kitu nimekuwa nikisema kuwa John Mbadi is a flower girl and John Mbadi is not the real CS wa Treasury. Na hii kitu moja ile tuko allowed kusema kwa sini podcasters. Najua tunaweza sema zile vitu mainstream media can never tell you. If you are to ask me, the real CS wa Treasury ni Moses Kuria. Alafu the real assistant CS ni David Ndii. What John Mbadi represents is a flower girl. It's just someone who's been put there to appease the Luos, because I'm sorry but Wajaka wanakuwaga so easy to impress. Kuna na hizo, kuna wasame kwa kiniambia like, hey, mwaf jo unabash Wajaka, unajua you have to lazima kila mtu naitaga positive ethnicity. If you're supposed to be able to see things that your community does wrongly and does right. Wajaka kitu moja ile nitawapea ni kikam to bravery, like IKONINI, tuendete, like Wajaka watakuwa kwa front line, that's number one. But kikam to kuimpressiwa na nonsense, pia watakuwa number one. Nani of course Mbadi si Mjaka, Mbadi ni Msuba, but Suba, Wajaka, it's kitu moja, unajua. But sasa reason nafanya nasema Mbadi ni flower girl, ni kuna hii post ilitokea, ilikuwa kwa Citizen TV, kwani why Kenyans could soon pay more for sanitary pads, diapers and tampons. And ili ni remind like Mbadi before he joined the government. Alikuwa msee fulani mpaka unashindwa umsee, and I think this is even one of the reasons why the president aliend up akimuingiza kwa gava, because you could see like the way he'd articulate issues in such a good way that hizi policy za increase taxes, these are not his ideas, and he's just there. Amepatiwa gari, ikawekwa flag, akawekwa zile lights, akamboe tulia, wacha Moses Kuria warani kitu na David Ndii. Alafu we tulia jo. Cheki, wacha ni kutake back to like Mbadi akipatia na ideas zake on what he wanted to do. This was on 9th September 2024, before I realized that yeye ni ka flower girl flood.
Thank you for staying with the Monday Report. And in what appears to be a shift in policy, the National Treasury is set to cut tax rates in the medium term. Speaking during the launch of the budget preparation process for financial year 2025-2026, Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says that the government will be looking to reduce the value-added tax rate from 16% to 14% and corporate taxes from the current 30% to 25% to attract investment into the country. Mbadi has also called on professional bodies to submit their recommendations on expenditure and engage fully in the budget-making process. Jimmy Mbogo now explains this change in tack by Treasury.
So nasikia. So this is what was supposed to happen. Tuko tunafaa reduce the taxes. But what ended up happening? Right now, tuna increase maka taxes up sanitary pads. And this is why kuna office waga zinaniudhi kabisa, office of the first lady, office of the first daughter. Fuck off. Najua kwa nini? If you can't protect women, like menstruation, it's not si kitu ati mademu kaga chini wako unajua ni aje, acha nianze kunyesha, acha nianze kunyesha, acha ni spendido. Like menstruation nakuwaga such a big issue that place kama Jamaica matusi wagajua menstruation, hiyo blood clot ni blood cloth, cause mademu wengi Jamaica hawakuwa wanaweza kuafford sanitary pads, so walikuwa wanachukuaga nguo wanaikunja alafu wanaiseti pale, so blood clot, yani unaitwa hiyo nguo cause hiyo ni nguo ya kutupa baadaye. Alafu sasa hizi unatuambia that unataka tubaki tumeanza kupay taxes for that sanitary pads. Alafu diapers, kuzia diapers nakumbuka also wali explain akina it was not Moses Kuria, ilikuwa Kimani Ichung'wah ndiye alikuwa anasema vile watu tumiaga diapers ni watu wadosi. Unajua like watu wengine si wadosi, ni watu wamesota, that's why hafai kujali stories za nini. So that's what we are dealing with. But now wacha tusikiza the real CS. This is now, according to Mimi, this is the real CS wa Treasury. Mbadi, as I keep saying, ka flower girl flani. Umse ata kibonga, you can actually see that he's saying things that he's already told his boss. His boss anaitwa William Samoei Ruto, and Ruto has told him that this is how we are going to do this thing. We are going to make sure we take as much money from these people as possible, and then like steal as much of it as possible, and then kutakuwa na wafala ziko online ziko tulipe ushuru ufala yuko na do ya stadium alikuwa anafaa kutengeneza na hiyo stadium ijatengenezwa. Ruto anatuambia juu ya story za kutuonyesha taxes, atuonyeshe history yake ya taxes tujue ni kukungapi ashaiuza. If you're a billionaire from chicken, you have to be knowing how many chicken you've sold, otherwise fuck off. Wacha tusikize fala kila lisema the real treasure, the real CS wa treasury, not John Mbadi.
That, but the government of Kenya is taking measures to ensure that when it comes to issue of paying taxes, even hiding behind data protection and data privacy cannot save you, because we are going back to ensure that we change the legal regime to ensure that data sharing, data transparency is actually an obligation for everyone who is holding data. So that will make it easy for us to be able to move to the next step in terms of digitalization. And by the way,
so mesikia, so huu ndio treasury wa yani CS wa treasury, and yeah, so alituambia kitu kita happen, and that's what's going to happen. So wacha ni kutake back to some of the things ile nimekuwa nikisema juu ya Mbadi during the financial bill debate alisema kitu moja ilikuwa interesting sana, na alikuwa na bonga mpaka naambia say like according to mimi President Joe hana financial advisors, because President angekuwa na financial advisors angejua how the economy works, and I think like this was one of those. I think at this point hata Ruto alikuwa like tupigia ira ya, because don't forget Ruto alikuwa yuko State House na tet ni mbaya, because tulikuwa tukachachisha mbaya. So this was before to invade Parliament, unajua. Yes, before Kenyans, not criminals, before Kenyans told the political class that you can't just do whatever you want to do. And the reason why the political class inafanya history inafanya saa hizi ni because they know tukienda kwa streets watatudedisha, nacheki. Afu after tudedishe in 2027 watainua Bible, alafu utakuwa hapo anapenda Mungu, afadhali kwenda huko pia wewe. Wacha tusikize vile kwa na bonga. Hii ni Mbadi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to start by saying that since President Ruto took over power, I've never been to State House. I don't intend to. I have never had a one-on-one meeting with him. So the only forum I can use is this one, to tell him what I think he needs to do. The President, I want to tell you, the people you have hired, economic advisors you have hired at State House, and the people you have put at the Treasury are not advisors, but they are economic saboteurs. Please look for economic advisors to help you govern this country for the remaining period of 3 years.
So mecheki, alafu hapo kwa background utacheki kuna kamse kanaitwa Kaluma ndio kamse like alipatiwa opportunity ya kukalia the speaker seat, and you could see how happy he was. He's one of those clowns who right now Ruto can do no wrong. Najua everything that Ruto does is perfect. So umecheki place nani Mbadi alisema that the president ana need kuhire wasewa kumu-advise. Alafu this is now the part where he actually talks about revenue.
I say so because, Mr. Speaker, this idea and perception that is coming across, and I hear it a lot even with my colleagues across the aisle, that for you to grow this economy, for you to narrow the budget deficit, you need to tax Kenyans more. That is, nothing can be further from the truth.
Okay, nothing can be further from the truth. Do you think that this guy supports hizi vitu zina happen saa hizi? He does not support it. But amepatiwa gari na akapatiwa flag. After kupatiwa flag akaambiwa wewe tulia. Alafu saa hizi ukienda ujakani wasi wako pale jo wana dance jo. So I don't think Mbadi's ideas are going to be used, and this reaches a level where niko sure hata maybe nani Moses Kuria anakaa chini anamwambia yani Mbadi uko nafikiria ndio CS wa treasury yenyewe the foreskin misleads the mind. afu Mbadi Madam Suba nimejaliwa pia whatever. So in ndio like if you are to compare that person with whatever is happening right now, you'll know that he's a flower girl, and I'll keep saying that. But sasa mse kama Moses Kuria amekuwa ni like one of those he's very arrogant ikikam to history ya taxes, and I think with how this is how they are looking at it. They are looking at this thing from a perspective where they might end up losing the election, but before they lose the election they want to have looted enough. Wanataka wakue with enough money so that just in case they lose and they can't rig themselves back, they'll have enough money. Because you know what happens in Kenya, they'll be found guilty at a certain level, then the higher levels when they go what end up wakipatikana wakiwa innocent. So that's what's going to happen. But wacha ni kutake back to hii ni interview ya when ilikuwa 11th of June 2024. This was before the protest. The protest started happening a week later.
For me, the primary mover is the people of Kenya, because they're the ones who voted for us and put us in office. We are willing to listen, and we will listen to people. We will listen to their representatives in Parliament. You know, this is a parliamentary process. We are listening to stakeholders. We are listening to industry. We are listening to private sector. So that we are willing to do.
Askeyo, we'll listen. But don't forget, what ended up happening? A week later, we started going to the streets. And when we went to the streets, we were able to go puli kitu chini. Alafu, now what has happened? They've brought it back, and as they've brought it back, they are super arrogant. And they know that tuliwaonyesha, this is how far we are willing to go. And as we go, and if we go back to the streets, they're going to use maximum violence kwetu. But still, let's go back to Mbadi, because Mbadi ni mse moja ule like kama wase wa learn the way this broad-based government is imbalanced. If you can't learn, you can learn from this one guy. This is still Mbadi. This is on the 19th of June, one day after protests zianze.
If you compare revenue collection up to 12 months leading to March 2024, the growth in revenue is 13.8%. Compare that to the same period ending March 2023, revenue growth was 14.5%.
Atiki huko nyuma, still nilikwambia, kuna Kaloma, alafu kuna Opiyo Wandayi. Opiyo Wandayi siku hizi yuko gavajo, hii amebambika sana. And when I look at that person, this is the same guy who also, I remember aliendaga Citizen. Alafu vile aliendaga Citizen alisemaga kitu moja ile, I've been saying the same thing but in a different way. Unanga vile nimekuwa nikisema that gava saizi imeingia kwa mfuko zetu mpaka unasikia jo umeguzwa deki unashindwa ni nini jo. Unafikiri ni deme yako alafu unapata kumbe ni serikali inatafuta pesa. Mbadi, this was when? This was on the 18th of June. The day ilikuwa asubuhi kabla protests zianze kuhappen hiyo siku. And sikia kile Mbadi alikuwa amesema.
Is behaving like pickpocket. You know, pickpocket would not put his 5 fingers in your pocket to pick your money. What they would do is to put 2 fingers. So what they are doing here, and what he's deliberately not mentioning, is they are proposing to increase fuel levy by 9 shillings. That is dangerous. And the people of Kenya must not accept this.
Okay.
The
the people of Kenya must not accept this. This is the same guy now telling us that we need to accept like levy on sanitary pads. And of course now kuna wasewe wako lile like maybe we need to turn to the courts. Waso watching weekend update unakumbuka kuna like one of the discussions tulihavigi hapa. And I remember RAPCHA akisema that according to him, as long as the judiciary exists, he's okay with it. Alafu like we got into like a small argument hapo. I don't know. Kwa wase hawajai nini endeni job akimeitafuta. But this is what happened. So on the 31st of July 2024, this is when the High Court, the Court of Appeal was ruling on Finance Act year 2023. So this is like how many? This is like a month, just over a month after the June 25th protests. Sindio? Sikia kile nini Court of Appeal ilisema.
Now tonight, we begin our broadcast with yet another blow for President William Ruto's government. The Court of Appeal has rendered the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional, null and void for failing to consider views of the public on various sections. Now, the three-judge bench of Justices Katharima Minotti, Agnes Murgor and John Motivo found that Parliament failed to follow laid-out procedure of legislation by introducing new sections without conducting public participation on them.
So the Court of Appeal found this to be unconstitutional, and then we go ile happen with Kenya ni court inafanya hivi alafu the higher court ends up ruling for the government. So you remember at some point they were like ati Ruto na Koome wana need to meet, and after they meet nini wabaki wamebonga juu the problems between the judiciary and the executive. Of course they ended up meeting, and what happened, the Supreme Court last week ikabaki imerule that nini was constitutional. Don't forget, these people don't get to suffer hizo vitu. This was kinama housing levy and what. You remember they get housing allowance, they get easy all this nonsense. So they get even sitting allowance. So anything that ile sisi tunalipa extra, they are not feeling that pinch. Because let's say they are being charged an extra 15,000 shillings. All they need to do is have another sitting and then get a sitting allowance. Remember they also get paid a salary, but they still get sitting allowances. But at least one of the things ile tunajua serikali na inadinya economy sana, na kabla udinya economy kuna vile you need some erections.
Through hearing and determining 4 presidential election petitions over the last 3 election cycles, the court has set critical benchmarks for conducting free, fair and transparent elections.
Cheki. So hii government ya Kenya kwanza inatupatia free, fair and transparent election. Najua that election hata hajavaa suruali yuko tu tumekuja kuadinya jo. And so the judiciary to me inakuwaga useless ikikam to hii story yote. And Maraga alitry mpaka alishtua Uhuru. Naongelea time Uhuru akisema we'll revisit mpaka Maraga got scared. That's why the second election ili happen ya 2017 wali approve too, because I think also even for him after the first one kwamba hiyo will revisit, because sometimes try kuosha Uhuru sana. Uhuru was not as good as nini. Uhuru pia alidedishaga protesters alinini. The only difference ni umse ameifanya kwa ile scale ya Moi, ametushtua abductions. Uhuru of course kuna time akina Lai walikuwa na arrested, but it was not everyone. Umse unajua everyone is being arrested and then he shows up with the Bible on Sunday and deny everything. So one thing lazima tukubali, the judiciary is useless, and as we go forward another reality we have to deal with is we have to know that somehow I can even predict it, like in 2027 is if there is an election petition and the win opposition is close hivi to Ruto, Martha Koome, we know how she's going to rule. And the worst thing about it is this woman, she's going to be the longest serving Chief Justice ever. Sijui kayo ni kitu watu wanajua. The longest serving, because you can serve for at least 10 years. Martha I think alingia 2021. So she's with us till 2031. Damn.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Newsline, and the Supreme Court today set aside the Appellate Court decision of finding the Finance Act 2023 unconstitutional. Even though the Apex Court found some parts of the bill unconstitutional, a majority of the document was given a clean bill of health by the 7-judge bench led by the CJ Martha Koome. KTN's Esther Diana has more.
So, wacheki, we are going to go tunaenda kukubali. So one of the saddest things about Kenya ni the different arms of government. Zinakuwaga ni kama kuna 3 arms of government, but the executive is everything. And with this in mind, it means that the judiciary has to please the executive for budget kutolewa. That's what unachiki saizi akina Martha Koome wakiwa na Ruto, oh please tutengeneze building mpya. Unachiki zile vitu tunaitisha vitu za kipumbavu. Like Supreme Court au kaga chini like once in a what. They don't need a new building, but now all of a sudden they need a new building. So what do you think Ruto is going to tell them? Ruto ataambia that yes, nitawapatia new building as long as every case ile inakuja against my Nini mnaipitisha. And that's what's going to happen. I think kuna kitu moja Ahmed Nasir alibaki ameandika. Ahmed Nasir Litten alikuwa ameandika kitu fulani juu ya Koome. I think aliandika, I think President Faith Odhiambo and her Council of LSK must urgently address the unacceptable and treasonous judgment of the Supreme Court of 29th October 2024 in the 2023 Finance Bill case that held Article 10 of the Constitution is inoperative and non-justiciable. And that Article 10 doesn't give a Kenyan citizen a course of action against the government and its institutions. In a week when the court openly and extravagantly celebrates its juris pesa record and peddles the false narrative that it's the protector of the Constitution, we must call it out. Highlight the reactionary and subversive judgment of the court that totally obliterates Article 10 of the Constitution that throws Kenya back to the old age of an opaque, unaccountable and unresponsive government. Hii kitu alikuwa nasema in very many words ni in 2027 if this guy is not beaten by a very big gap, hii Supreme Court itasema the same thing, hot air blah 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 blah. So my last 2 cents inaenda kuwa we have to focus on the 2027 elections. Anyone telling you that Ruto is going to leave power before 2027 mse mjinga. For him to leave power in 2027 is going to be an uphill task, and one of the things tunaweza fanya ni you can always study from the past and you can learn from the past. One of the things ushaisikiaga inasemekanaga juu ya Raila, and the reason why he never won many elections was in a lot of these polling stations he didn't even have an agent, so numbers would just be because najazwa tu alafu zinarushwa. In 2027 if you can volunteer for the opposition guy, whoever the fuck, because the opposition guy atakuwa naitwa whoever the fuck, so whoever the fuck atakuwa kiran against Ruto. So if you can volunteer, if there's a polling station next to place unaishi na unaweza volunteer na kuwe the agent for whoever the fuck, baki umevolunteer so that to make sure, alafu pia kuwa unaweza record, alafu baki umeipost online. I think time kama hiyo, one of my suggestions would be mse kama anaitwa nani umse anaitwa Cyprian, anafaa kufanya have a tallying center so that tupelekane na ase, so hata wakiiba wajue tunajua wameiba, na ikuwe ni ile tu ni whatever, like the only thing wanaweza tufanyia sana kutupiga risasi. But mi sioni umse akiwin tukitumia brain yetu hata win. Yes, rigging, oh you have state nazi. At the end of the day you need to be popular. Kibaki was popular with a very big section of Kenya. He still had to steal, he still had to be Nini that night. He was popular. This guy is not popular. So how is he going to win without popularity? Mulima asha lose. Niko na bonga na mse fulani ananiambia Kisumu things are not as easy as it looks. Ama politicians wako but on the ground tumjaka tuko next week nitakuwa Kisumu, so I'll talk to a few people and try and gauge what's happening. But 2027 we need to stop this shit, because look at this finance bill, like everything. Saizi wamesema that ukitoka majuu na unakam Kenya utakuwa inabidi unapatia na hiyo IMEI namba yako ndio ionyeshe kama unaenda kutumia phone yako ukiwa within Kenya. And it's only an asshole like Moses Kuria that can come up with something like this, because kama nimetoka majuu, who do I need to communicate with? I need to communicate with my family. Kama nimeacha family in the US, ama nimeacha family in Britain, ama nimeacha family in Hungary, and I can use WhatsApp. I don't need Safaricom. So the biggest loser kwa history yote ni Safaricom, because this means these people won't have to buy nini like anaweza amua tu mimi natumia tu wifi, sawa, okay, situmii nini buda, si nikuweke nini credo ni call. Unajua credo ya kucall ya msee na yako, you'll use it very differently. So it's the government that's going to lose in all these things, but they don't care, because at the end of the day I'm sure like by the time waliingia Ruto aliambia Moses Kuria, I'm going to make you a billionaire, and these people, they're going to do nothing about it, and as I make you a billionaire, I'm going to come out as a trillionaire. And it's okay, because the best thing about it is, as long as they don't change the constitution, this is the one thing utaonaga mu fight sana, history ya kuchange presidential terms, because as long as they don't change the constitution, someone will have to pay. IKONINI.